Good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today we shall be discussing issues that has to do with food security and how it affects us here in Nigeria, most especially the FCT. The FCT, definitely you know, is surrounded by states with so many landmass that has to do with agricultural productivity. So when you look at today, more than 800 million people across the world still go to bed hungry each night, stunting the growth of both children and economies. Ending global hunger is of the greatest challenges and opportunities of our time, and agriculture is at the heart of the solution. Growth in agriculture has been shown to be at least twice as effective at reducing poverty as growth in other sectors. Fighting the root causes of hunger, poverty, and malnutrition is also a boon to Nigerian security and prosperity. So history has shown that poverty and hunger push people into despair, and in turn exacerbate many of today's national security challenges. We know that threats to crops do not respect borders, and investing in agricultural research today prepares us to adapt to future challenges and remain resilient amid evolving threats, which also advances Nigerian prosperity and security. Effective food security investment that expand and protect economic opportunities help create a more stable and prosperous world. Food security means having at all times both physical and economic access to sufficient food to meet dietary needs for a productive and healthy life. So a family is food secure when its members do not live in hunger or fear of hunger. So when you look at food insecurity, it's often rooted in poverty and has long-term impact on the ability of families, communities, and countries to develop and prosper. And then prolonged undernourishment stunts growth, slows cognitive development, and increases the susceptibility to illness. So when you look at all these issues, it boils down to how do we take care of ourselves as a nation if we are not food secure? And then, if we are not food secure, so what are then the causes? So these are the issues today that we'll be looking at, and then we'll be discussing this with nobody but Oni Ruth Ifeoluwa. Oni Ruth Ifeoluwa is an agricultural consultant in post-harvest technology, and also will be joined by Mr. Simon Edegbo. Mr. Simon Edegbo is a business and development expert in the agri-food sector of Nigeria and West Africa, and he is one of the two recipients of multinational FMN Group George Komantaros Foundation Scholarship, and is presently a researcher at Perotis College, Thessaloniki in Greece. And he will be joining us to also have a better understanding of what it means for us to have food insecurity, because then, you know, if you have food security, then there's no problem, there's no cause for alarm. But then today we are going to look at the lapses that is within that particular field. So let's go for this short break, and when we return, we start with the conversation.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. When we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good afternoon, and so still on this issue, the issue of food security. Good afternoon, Madam Oni Ruth Ifeoluwa. It's nice having you today on the studio. In the studio. Thank you, Ali. Fine. And you see, the issue of food security has been one of the major issues for now, and you can see the rising cost of agricultural produce. Yeah. So these are critical issues, and Nigerians are facing critical time, most especially at this point in time where we are moving towards December period, yeah, sure, where definitely food, the cost of agricultural produce is going to increase. So let us still go back to Mr. Simon Edegbo. Mr. Simon Edegbo, good afternoon, and welcome to the afternoon edition.
Hi, Mr. Nuhu. So good to be back. Thank you so much.
Okay. Let me quickly start with you with respect to what we are discussing today. What is your take on the recent issue that has to do with food security across the globe?
Thank you so much. So I would like to say that as it relates to Africa, we already know that there's only so much Africa has done to prepare for this event. It's really sad that smallholder farmers are having to bear the brunt of climate change. But besides climate change, we also see that insecurity is having an effect on our food systems. And we are already beginning to see that play out in the market space, with the volatility being experienced in several commodity and food markets across Nigeria and even other parts of Africa. Globally, we can say, yes, there's inflation and all of that, but when you look at these factors and how they have affected Africa, are we really prepared? Have we put plans or strategies in place to ensure that food is no longer an issue? I mean, for there to be food security in Nigeria, we have to ensure that the food is available, it's accessible, it's affordable, and is actually, delivering on the nutrients needed for, growth and development. And so we are beginning to see that people are spending more of their income increasingly on food because of several factors. Yes, the Russia-Ukraine war, yes, inflation, yes, climate change, but Africa hasn't necessarily really prepared, for all of these changes. And so it's affecting the food space. And I mean, only God knows what is going to happen next year, because of what happened this year. And so I really believe that this is really a crucial time for everybody to come together, put our heads together and our hands to the plow and make this work.
Okay, you've stated the basis of the cost of the issue of the food security, and you've also broadened our mindset with respect to how it is affecting Africa. Let me quickly come back to Oni in the studio here. Let us also have a concept understanding about our thought on food security. She's an expert also that lives here in Abuja, and if she can localize the discussion, okay, let us also know what is happening with respect to the issue of food security.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Now, when we talk about food security, it means the availability of food within an area and people in the environment can have access to the food. So the basic truth here is that now you need, food is very important in human's life. Now, how many people can afford the food that has been available? Like, going to the market, price of things keep on increasing, and those are the basic things. Like for example, now you need to get a crate of egg. You just keep on adding up. The last time I bought, that was 2 days ago, was 2,200. Then just think of a family that is having like 4 kids. and plus the father and the mother making 6. So if you are getting a crate of eggs, it might not last you for 5 days. So definitely in a month, they might be going for like 5 crates of eggs. Can they afford it? So that's where the challenge comes from. And another challenge I can talk about is insecurity, because most people in farming now, like, because of the insecurity, they are leaving the farming work and they have to come to an open place like where the rent is more expensive. So those are one of the factors that has been affecting the food security, let me just say, in FCT. So most people, like maybe things, raw material you can have access to in a cheaper rate, for you to travel down there to get it, for like your maize, getting it in the north. How many people is ready to travel to the north to bring it? You are not even sure maybe you'll receive your goods or any other thing. So they have to go for the easier alternative, which is expensive. So it's a big challenges on its own. So the thing keep on going up, and many people were complaining, and the salary is not increasing. The minimum wage still remain the same. They have not increased it. So it's one of the challenges, and I think we really need to talk about it and see how we can overcome it.
Okay, now in talking about it, that's even the major reason why we have to bring this up, because yes, just of recent we've seen that the cost of agri-produce is on the rise, and as a result of that, it is affecting people. Yes. But then the FCT is more or less is being centered at a point where you have farmlands across. But at the same time also you still discover that despite the fact that the FCT is surrounded with states like Nasarawa State, Kogi State, Niger State, Kaduna State, but then still the cost of this food is still on the rise.
Yes.
So how then do we reduce issues like this in such a way that food can be on the table of everyone within the FCT?
Okay. I think, you know, at times the farmer might be willing to, but they don't have access to the kind of grains they're supposed to plant, you know, the ones that has high value grains, like in planting them. So it's just, for example, now maybe a farmer plants maize. It's still from the maize he planted last year that is going to take from and replant again. You can't get a good yield from that. You know, there are this kind of hybrid grains now that you can plant and you have a good result. And then again, the climate change, you know, sometimes you can't predict, maybe the rain will come or the rain won't come. It's another challenge. Then going to the farm, you know, most of the farmers, because of all these kidnapping and all that things, people are afraid of going to the farm. Even someone that can train them, you know, there are some people that works as a volunteer that, oh, let me train the farmers on what they can do to have a good result in their farm produce. But they are even scared of going there. So I think the first things we need to look into is to solve the issue of the insecurity. You know, when that one is solved, like people will be going into farming, both the youngs and the old ones, and everything will be moving on fine. Okay,
let me quickly go back to Mr. Simon. Simon, if you are still there, the issue, you've raised a critical issue the other time, and you've stated that the issue of Russia and Ukraine war has played a very huge impact in terms of food supply globally. So how then do we manage issues like that?
Thank you, Nuhu. I didn't quite get you because it seems like the volume isn't so high from your end. But I think you were asking something about the Russia-Ukraine war. Is that correct? And its impact on the food supply chain. Yeah, I can hear you now. So could you just, you know, give me a summary of that, the question?
Okay. I said earlier on you raised an issue that has to do with the Russia-Ukraine war. Unlike what it used to be in the last 2-3 months, now we've seen a suppression with regards to with respect to the recent attack. So how then can that really affect the current standing in terms of the food security globally?
So, I mean, Russia is like a major supplier of many commodities, as it has been said, you know, times without number. And we're beginning to see that other countries that are equally suppliers of this, but probably in lower volumes, are beginning to take, you know, proactive measures to sort of reduce their exports. They need to consider their, you know, their food security internally first before, you know, exporting. And this has led to increased prices. We've seen price volatility in very, very astronomical measures, you know, since the year began. However, we've also been able to see that as a result of the decrease in supply of fossil fuel across the world, the cost of getting, you know, those products from wherever it is, from the production or from the farm gate to the customer, has also gone up, right? And this has impacted the end, you know, the final cost to the consumer. right? So we are beginning to see an interplay of different factors, and it's ultimately affecting the supply of food to the average Nigerian, right? So this is as much as I can say. I don't know if this answers your question.
No, but then let me quickly ask you this. Do you think we still face the same problem, or where you are presently, Greece, are you facing the same issue with the issue of the food security?
I didn't get you. It was breaking.
Are you also facing the same challenge over there, just like we are facing here in Nigeria, where the price of agricultural produce is on the rise?
Okay. Can you just...
Okay, let me quickly repeat that. Are you also facing the same challenge? Just like here in Nigeria, we are having the issue of the cost of food is on the rise. Are you also facing the same challenge over there?
No, I think we just have to proceed, probably the network, because I really can't pick what you're saying. It's coming and going.
Okay, let the technical teams work on that while I'll put you back so that you can fix what you have to fix, because I believe I can hear you loud and clear from the studio. So you've heard, you've listened to what he has said. So now, when you look at the FCT, for instance, and you look at the state surrounding the FCT, shouldn't that lessen our concern with respect to this increment we have? You've mentioned the cost of buying a crate of egg. Shouldn't that reduce it, having so many agrarian communities around the FCT?
Yeah. Yes, you are right. But the question is, how many people is going into farming now? You know, sometimes the farmers do face challenges, and if you are not strong enough, if you are in a business and you feel, you face a challenge, you just back up. So not everybody have this mindset of like, when you fall, you can rise again. And another thing again is, you know, all these things because I believe despite the issue of maybe increase in price we are discussing about, when the farmers get the raw materials in bulk, it's more cheaper. Then you get it when there is season for it. But the challenge is that how are you going to access the fund? How are you going to access the storage facility for that? For example, now maybe during the season for maize, if I have a silo, I can store my grains inside the silo. Then when the season is gone, I can keep on getting it, then keep on rolling it like that. But how many farmers can install a silo? The cost of it, where are they going to get the fund? So I think the government needs to invest more in agriculture, as in people that are really willing to go into agric, not just a random person. You know, if that one is done, it will be more easier, and you can still control the price of things, because you are very sure, okay, this is the amount I got this thing, and I stock it. Then if I need it, I can always have access to it in my silo. I can bring it out. Okay, I'm doing production, maybe 10,000 tons. I have all the grains I need for it in my silo. So it's very easy. So I think the government needs to invest more in agriculture by giving out loans to the farmers, supporting them, encouraging them, and things will work out.
But then if you look at issues like this, you know, definitely the government for some time now have also been giving loans to farmers, and you can see that we have the Anchor Borrowers program, where farmers benefited so much from, apart from the other special intervention the government has done to agri. But then the concern still remains. Why are we still having, it seems we are not having enough food? That those who are practicing agriculture in Nigeria, they seem not to keep what they harvest in the country.
Not really. I don't even think we have enough. We don't have, as in we are not producing enough of agri products we need, so we still need to get more. But taking it out, I don't think so. We don't have enough. What I'm trying to say is that probably maybe the government should increase the resources they are giving into agriculture so that it can circulate, it can meet enough. Actually, I know about Anchor Borrower, and they base more, as in I was hearing more of them on rice farming. You know, rice farming, well, is still part of food security, but I'm talking from the aspect of poultry feed processing now. You know, like maize is one of the ingredients, the raw materials you need in production of the feed. So what I'm trying to say is that if the government invest in the government invest in agriculture, maybe giving money to the farmers, anybody that needs to buy raw materials to store it down, they can get it at the cheaper rate. They can get it during the season where they can get it cheaper. Then when they have the storage, they'll know that, okay, well, the production I'm doing for a period of 6 months, I have all the raw material available. So there is no point for me going to the market. Then I just hear that a bag of maize I got at the rate of 15,000 naira is now 20,000 naira. You know, definitely if I'm using to produce a feed, maybe a bag of feed is 6,000 naira. So the next thing is going to increase to 6,500. So if I'm selling a crate of egg, 2,000 naira, definitely it's going to increase to 2,200. You understand? So that's where the challenge is. You know, when that one is solved, or probably maybe building a silos whereby, okay, farmers can bring their grains, store it there whenever they need this. There is a way they can regulate it. Probably maybe you pay for storing it for you, they dry it and store it. Then the thing can circulate.
Okay, let us get back to Mr. Simon, if you can hear me now.
Okay.
Let me quickly ask you, Simon. The last question I asked was that now in Nigeria, we are having issues with respect to the cost of buying agri-produce, and we've also seen people trying to ohad what they have what they have harvested from farms. So, where your present location now, are you also facing same challenge with respect to the cost of buying food? I mean, agri-produce now.
No, could you just come again one more time, please? Sorry, I didn't pick all of it.
Okay, are you also having challenges with respect to the cost of buying food or agri-produce in Greece presently?
I didn't get that, sorry. I think we should just
But I can hear you loud and clear. Unfortunately, probably it would have to do with your network over there. So let me just ask for the last time, are you having challenges with the cost of buying agri-produce in Greece?
No, I couldn't pick it. Sorry, I think this is just a technical issue. I couldn't pick it.
Okay, why will you work on that? Let me come back up to you, Oni. Now you've stated so many issues. The issues of making sure that, yes, there is enough intervention with respect to agricultural activities or the agricultural sector in Nigeria. So if the government provides enough intervention in the agri sector, do you think that will forestall the issue of this increment in price?
Yes, definitely.
What about then the issue of flooding? Of recent, we've seen flooding across the whole part of the country, most especially in the southern part and then some other parts within the northwestern and north central states.
Yeah. You know, the issue of the flooding is so disturbing because when I watch it on the TV, what the farmers face and every other thing, because I have to be sincere, if I'm the one, I have a friend that is a rice farmer too in Benue State. I think she's in Abuja now. I was just like, I used to be rice farming. She told me like she have challenges with flooding and every other thing, so she have to quit rice farming. And before she was doing very fine that I was like, I'm going to learn from her, then going into going into farming of rice. You know, one thing I would just say about it is that, you know, this thing, when it comes to agri, if you are going into agri, if you don't have mind, like you don't have the mindset that, okay, when you fall, you can rise again, is a very big challenge. You know, the issue of flooding now, I mean, what happens to the farmer, if somebody that doesn't have this kind of mindset that, okay, if I fall, I can still rise again. You know, that's the end. They might never go into it again. So I just think that they need more support from the from the government, and they should look into how to solve this issue of flooding. You know, there is a way this climate change too, it's part of what is affecting them, because they never expect that the flood can be up. You know, rice needs water, but they never expect that it's going to increase to that level and everywhere was just flooded and all the grains just destroyed. So I think most of them, we are talking like they have to borrow money from the government. Now everything is gone and they are still owing. So the pressure is on them, like they feel like, okay, because the plan was like, okay, when they harvest the sell, that's where they are going to pay for. Now that everything is gone, are they going to pay? That's the issue. And now, are we not going to have rice in this country? Because that's another question we need to ask ourselves, like, okay, you plant rice and now everything is, just gone like that. So how are we going to survive? How is it going to be? It's another big challenge. So I just think the government should encourage them, and the government should do the necessary things that needs to be done, because if there is a proper plan, like we have enough dam and drainage for water, it shouldn't get to that extent. It might happen, but it won't get to the extent of destroying the rice farm. So I think the government needs to work more on infrastructure, like doing the necessary things at the right time. Not that when things are destroyed to an extent, then that's when they can start coming in. Because if it has been done before, like they've worked on the right thing they're supposed to do, it won't get to that level. You know, anything can happen. It happens everywhere. So it's not a big deal, but there are some things too, there are some areas that the government needs to work on and focus on. You know, if that one is done, and it will be easy. Okay,
you've earlier on you also raised the issue of still on that issue of intervention.
Okay.
And you've noted that oftentimes sometimes people do say that it is not even the fault of the government. They said sometimes it has to do with those that also apply to get these funds so that they can go into farming and to make sure that yes, we have enough food. Okay. But then there is also this question that raises issue on how we even practice agriculture in Nigeria, mostly even within the FCT. Okay. The issue of not mechanizing the process. How has that got to do with this cost of food?
Okay, actually, let's be realistic. You know, sometimes when I think agric in Nigeria, like, you know, because I have opportunity to be trained abroad, Germany to be precise, and I've traveled to some part of African country, let me just say Tanzania, like, the way agric is being practiced, there's quite a different things. Like, I was in a farm in Germany, then I have a training there for like 2 weeks. So they have a poultry farm, and wow, the whole thing was just so sweet. I have to be sincere, you know, like, if I need to feed them, like, it's to give them water, I just go through the system and press it. It goes. Then when it's time to pick eggs, the thing just comes automatically. Then I just have to package it. So it was so sweet for me. And I was enjoying the whole activities. You know the technology involved in it. It was so sweet for me. And so when I come back, for me to now go into poultry, then to go and fetch water from one river or well or any other thing, then start putting water inside drinker. It's very difficult for me.
So at this point, what kind of program do you think needs to be put in place for those in local areas? For instance, some of these local councils we have, the local council we have 6 in the FCT.
Okay.
So what kind of programs do you think the government needs to put in place that will help them to also adopt technology in order for them to have enough for the people resident in the FCT?
Yeah, you know, they can collaborate with a country, I mean, with developed country. They bring in their people, they should install the, the machineries and equipment they need and train the farmers on how to make use of it, and they should adapt to the technology. Because I'm very sure that any young people, you know, this will even encourage young people to go into farming. Like, okay, everything is computerized. You can check for the temperature and every other things. You didn't need to go to, when you need to adjust anything, you see it on your system, you know the right time to feed them. Then the packaging, you don't have to be picking. There's a machine working for that. So we encourage more people to go into agriculture, and we won't have issue with this, with food insecurity.
So all through your stay in the FCT, have you come across facilities like that produces things seamlessly?
I've not, but I heard that there is a farm, but due to the issue of insecurity, kidnapping and every other things, like, because I like going to see things, so I don't even make attempts. I just respect myself. You know, when you think of the location where the place is and every other thing, so I didn't go.
Okay, so we'll go on a very short break, and we'll return back to continue with the conversation. And I hope by then Mr. Simon Edegbo would have fixed up his technicalities, and we also join the conversation to also give us a better idea of what the challenges is all about, and then how we can resolve issues that has to do with food security in the FCT.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we will realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be wielded by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Okay, welcome back from that break. So let us quickly take a listen to some of the interventions here in the FCT. And you've also raised a critical aspect of agriculture, which has to do with the livestock. Yeah. And I think the Minister of States also carried out some intervention just of recent. So let us take a listen.
The inputs distributed include fish tanks, feeds, smoking kilns, fishing nets, hooks and liners, cold storage facilities, fish drugs and fingerlings. Dr. Aliyu said the gesture is in line with the President Muhammadu Buhari's quest to diversify the economy through agriculture. The fisheries and aquaculture subsector was one of the fastest growing agricultural ventures in Nigeria, contributing significantly to Nigeria in terms of employment generation, poverty alleviation, foreign exchange earnings, and as a source of raw materials for the animal feeds industry.
It is heartwarming to note that the Aquaculture and Trade Center, KUCA, which was constructed and commissioned in 2022, is delivering on set objectives. So far, the center has trained and empowered over 1,000 youths and women whose products are sold at different markets within and outside the Federal Capital Territory.
In his remarks, the Mandate Secretary, FCTA Agriculture and Rural Development Secretariat, Madam Abubakar Ibrahim, reiterates the Secretariat's commitment to introduce new innovations in the fishery and aquaculture sector, stating that the Secretariat has widened its scope of support from not only the provision of inputs, but also to building the capacities of fish farmers so that they can easily transit from household production to commercial production.
I want to use this opportunity to assure you that our commitment to introduce new innovations in the fishery and aquaculture sector remains a priority.
Responding on behalf of the recipients, the President, FCT Fish Farmers Association, Mr. Sunday Musa Onoja, appreciated the FCT administration for sustaining the support programs, which he said has resulted to the development of the fisheries and agricultural sector in the territory.
And there's issue of maximizing the productivity. Because the farmers' clash has been going on, but fish has no issue. But now we see that there are a lot of water bodies in the FCT. People do capture fishery, people do farm fishery, people do processing. So I'm sure these are the things they look at, but they're still expecting it to see that more fish are being produced either in fresh form, in capture form, or in processed form.
There were goodwill messages from all the mandate secretaries, area council chairmen, and traditional rulers. After the symbolic presentation of the inputs to the various groups who appreciated the gesture with the promise to put them to good use, a dance and drama troupe entertained the guest with a performance on unity of Nigeria.
So you've listened to that report by Usman Khatum on the efforts the government is also making. So what is your take with respect to that?
Wow, it's so encouraging, and I was happy seeing this. Like, the government is really working. Like, it's a nice one. I heard them talking about the animal feeds, and I saw some fees. Then they equip the farmers to with raw material, feed fees, fingerlings, and it's a good one. It's encouraging, and it's a nice one.
Okay, let us quickly get back to Mr. Simon, and let us hear his own remark with respect to our last question.
Hi, no.
Now so you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can. What was that question around fertilizer?
Yes, please. You can go ahead with that question, please.
All right, thank you so much. So yeah, absolutely, the prices of fertilizer, the cost has absolutely impacted or affected the prices of food. We have seen that there has been decline in supply owing to the Russia-Ukraine war, which are the largest suppliers of NPK fertilizers, or those nutrients for the production of those fertilizers. And so definitely the price of fertilizer would affect food production because it's a very important input for production. So yeah, it has affected the astronomical prices of food.
Okay, now before then, you know that we've had series of challenges just of recent in Nigeria, the issue of the global warming, the issue of flooding, the issue of insecurity, which has hampered so many farmers from going to farm. So when you look at all these challenges and we start to discuss issues that still have to do with food security without also looking at major issues that has to do with nutrient balancing. How can we solve this problem?
So I think we have a lot of things coming to play. We're seeing, like you just mentioned, we're seeing different factors affecting the food system. And if we're going to beat this, we need to take it as urgent as it sounds, but more importantly, we need to beat this together. Whenever you hear the issue of food security, it almost naturally sounds like it's just for those in the agri space, but it is not. Food affects everybody, and so we must come together from the power sector, the security sector, like you mentioned, insecurity, transportation, infrastructure, and all of that. We must come together to build a very solid ecosystem so that food entrepreneurs, the private sector, and government organizations can flourish. We cannot afford to leave the matter of food security to just some people who studied agriculture or who are playing across along the value chain. We need to take it as everybody's responsibility that you're going to play your part in your space to ensure that the entire food system is seamless, going from farm to fork, going from the producer to the consumer, that at every stage of the value chain, we see that it's seamless.
Okay, now then, how then can we bridge this gap? Because one major issue that Ruth did mention was the issue of the use of technology, laying out experience in Germany and some other African countries. And then the adoption of technology still seems to be a major problem to bridge this gap. How then can we get the farmers to really understand the importance of the use of technology in the agricultural cycle?
Yeah, I'm really happy you brought this up because we need to see a behavioral change in our farmers. One of the major issues is that it's commonly believed that farmers are slow to adopt technology, but this is not just any time. We're at a very crucial time, in history where we're facing, an interplay of different factors that threaten our existence, literally. So we're going to see farmers, shifting just the same way the COVID-19, forced everyone to begin to adopt certain measures. I believe that we've come to a time where we're going to see that behavioral change that is necessary for farmers to begin to embrace technology, whether from a climate smart or early warning systems perspective, or from improved seeds and varieties, or from, good agronomic practices. We're going to begin to see that behavioral change. They say that necessity is the mother of change or something like that. We're going to see that because farmers have been severely or adversely impacted by all of these factors you have mentioned. You can imagine laboring for how many months only for your farms to be washed away by flood. only God knows if you took, you know, credit, a credit facility to establish that farm. What are you going to tell you know, your lender? Do you have insurance on that farm? Are you do you have any other endeavors that can make up for that loss, right? So we're going to begin to see that change, because we're at a very crucial time, like I said, and that's why I believe that probably from you know, the end of this year till next season, we're going to begin to see, you know, more rapid adoption of technology in the space.
Okay, just let me ask this before I come back to Ruth. Now that we are having some of these challenges, it's very, very obvious that it's very, very difficult for us to pass through this year without having continuous rise, which we don't pray. But then we've also had one major issue in this agribusiness in Nigeria, the issue of Ohaden harvest. You see, when the farmer is harvesting, you see there are middlemen who also go there to get this harvest from them and then keep them, store them for like 6-7 months. And as a result of that, you also have food scarcity in the market. So how then do we address this in order for us to beat down the prices of agricultural produce?
So, you know, we had that issue again, but I think what you were trying to ask was around post-harvest handling and management. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to begin to, you know, drive advocacy. I know one of the issues with the agricultural sector coming from, you know, the public space is that we have heard, you know, several times that there isn't sufficient budget for extension services. The agricultural system depends a lot on extension workers and extension services. And so, I mean, how do you want people to begin to adopt improved methods of harvesting, handling, storage, packaging, and all of that when you haven't taught them or supported them, you know, to do these things? And I mean, it's common knowledge that we waste, or over 40% of what we produce is wasted. If we're going to change that narrative, it's going to start with knowledge. And this knowledge must be transmitted or translated down to the smallholder farmers. We need to involve them. If we are saying that over 80% of our farmers in Nigeria are smallholder farmers, then it means they play a very significant role in our food systems. And so we must strengthen our extension services. We have already begun to see private sector players go into that space to help farmers adopt and implement these post-harvest technology. So we need to strengthen our extension services. We also need to see more of government budgets going into supporting them with the required equipment or tools that they need to make this work.
Okay, just a round-up question from for you. Just if you can answer that in 1 minute, so that we can come back to Ruth to give us our own remark with respect to what we've been discussing. The issue, one of the issues I raised while you answered one aspect of it, is the issue of after the farmers have harvested from the farm, there is always that third party that goes there and buy this produce and keep it from the market in order to gain more price before they release it. So how then do we address this issue?
I didn't get to know.
Do you get the question? Okay, I think you have. Let us just quickly discuss this with Ruth in the studio. So Ruth, you've listened to the question I posed to him. Okay, the issue of after the harvest, you see that there are always those third-party agents who goes there, get this agricultural produce. Okay. They won't take it to the market directly. They store it for it to gain more price, or they increase the price based on their agreement before they release it to the market. Is that not also affecting the way we look at issues of food security in Nigeria, and most especially in the FCT? Yeah, definitely is affecting. And one thing I think they should look into is there should be an organization in charge of that. There should be a price control. You know, when there's price control, whether if you like, go and collect all what you can collect and store it. So far, you know that you are still selling the same price that's been fixed. So I don't think there's any issue with that. Okay, now what would be your advice to the executive secretary of the agricultural research, the agri department in the FCT? What would be your advice to him in order for us to have a more reliable system, whereby when people get agri produce to the FCT, there is a bit of price control? Because getting persons to control the price seems to be one of the major problems.
Yeah, there should be rules and regulation to farmers, like, or to farmers, those that are selling in the market. This is the fixed price that should be sold, and anybody that sells beyond that should be penalized. As in, there should be a penalty for that. Like, why do you have to sell, I mean, to sell above the price that is being fixed? When there is that, I don't think anybody in his right sense will sell more than that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining us today on the afternoon edition. It's nice
you.
having you and giving your expertise in the field. We'll be hoping to have you more on this program so that we can have a major discussion on issues like this. So also to Simon Edegbo, I know you've been having 1 or 2 technical issues. It would be great to also listen to you one more time for us to have a better conversation and understanding of the agri sector in Nigeria. So wish you the best where you are. And this is how we can go on the program. My name is Isanu. Stay blessed and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.